lot of cats' tails.
That's funny.
The group, etc.
They want to get in on the, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen Phil's cat as his cat has come through.
Yeah, as the particularly PBS newscast has been coming live now, but I used to enjoy seeing the pets or the flowers in the back.
All right, morning, everybody. Looks like we have most of the folks here. I just want to make sure Tara's on the line.
I am.
And then is Don McDougall here this morning?
Don will not be joining the meeting this morning.
Okay. All right. So Ashley, do you have everybody you need on your end?
The only person we're waiting to join the meeting is our auditor.
Okay.
But if you like, we can get started with Alex's presentation and we can push the audit down to the end of the agenda rather than postpone the start of the meeting.
Okay, that sounds fine. Let's go ahead and have a called order and a roll call.
John Fisher.
Here.
Don McDougall is absent. Susan Murphy.
Here.
Bill Pardue.
Here.
Tara Twomey.
Here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, do we have any public appearances? Okay, we'll go on to the announcements. Any announcements from the trustees?
No, I've made about, it'll be after Thursday of close to $1,000 selling donated books at the market when I can get a table. And so that will definitely help, you know, $1,000 helps. And I sold out last week. I made $163 last week and sold out particularly children's books. So I'm going to restock and we have a table tomorrow. And then most of you know the book sale is on for August 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. And Alex, the one change is that we're now charging $15 for membership instead of $10. Okay. And I think that's it.
Do you need any help, Susan?
Yes, we definitely could use help. I know that John has a truck and is going to help. We're going to help set up and take down, I think that's Saturday, which would be the 14th. Yeah, 14th. So if you've got kids that you know that need extra, we're delighted to sign off on their community service, and it's at the youth center. So there's lots of parking and it's easy for kids to get to, I think. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Great news on being able to sell the books. I guess at the market as you go through. Do we have any any other announcements from the trustees? All right. How about announcements from the library director?
I just wanted to say that we, since our last meeting, we launched the outside library. It is going very well. We're seeing lots of good foot traffic coming through. It's nice to be face-to-face with patrons again. Some people are new to us that started using the library during the pandemic and putting things on hold. So that's great. And it's nice to see patrons that we knew before the pandemic. So that's going well. Going to be working with HR. Already submitted my job requisition form so that we can get the hiring process started as quickly as possible to bring people back on board and get the library buildings open as soon as possible.
Okay, great.
Ashley, can I just ask Ashley, what's the current mask rule?
As of right now, there'll be an email going out to staff shortly from HR, and I just found this out this morning. We have to, as staff, coordinate with HR to show that we have been vaccinated. And if we do not want to wear a mask in the workplace, we don't have to. The library staff and I are going to continue to discuss this because we are face to face with so many people. And we have talked prior to this about how nice it was, not COVID notwithstanding, to not have a cold or a flu because we are face to face with so many people. So we will, until such time, probably continue to wear masks when we interact with people. But we're going to continue to assess that and continue to have that conversation. But we will have the option.
But is it going to? I was going to say, but it's basically the.
It's not going to be required of our. It's not, as of now. It's not required of our patrons, and it won't be mandatory for staff. It'll be.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Ashley? Okay, if we could have we'll go ahead and receive a report from the Carmel Public Library Foundation on their recent activities.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. So CPLF provided the final library distribution to the library for $74,300. And that's the final one for this fiscal year. We have both completed our respective budgets, and a request was made for the $291,000 for next year, which we will allocate for the library. And let's see, our board right now is on a summer hiatus, as is our finance committee, but some of the members we're still in planning stages for our upcoming board retreat in September and our programs and our annual event. And we'll also be onboarding 2 new board directors that we're very excited about. I might have mentioned one is the EVP from Pebble Beach Company, is a strategy specialist. And another one is from Atlanta originally, but was on the board of their libraries and worked on capital projects with them. And she's a former attorney and was a head administrator at a girls' school in Atlanta. So we're excited to have those 2 both with their expertise on board or coming on board. We also conducted a survey to learn about what the community liked or didn't like about our programs this year, and found that, and also to see what topics they wanted to learn more about going forward. And not a big surprise, we found arts and culture at the top of the list, and the environment, architecture, and travel for our community night with the library programs. And then for our local history series, we found that a lot of people about 72% wanted to know more about Carmel, the city of Carmel, which was interesting, and art and architecture. And then famous Carmelites also landed on the top of that list. If anyone knows anyone, I'd love to do something fun. We've done a lot of the historic figures, but it might be nice to do something like with Doris Day or some of the ones who have been here a little bit more recently. If anyone knows anyone who would like to provide a program about that. And then we also asked about program venues, what people preferred, whether it was in person, a hybrid, in person with live streaming. And we found most people wanted a hybrid, both in person and also online. And then we are planning our retreat, as I mentioned, and we're hoping to gather again in person soon. So we're in contact with Sunset Center and also with a few of our other partners. And that's all that I have. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, Alex, this is Tara. Just real quick. So the plan, again, kind of trying to figure out how, what the return looks like. Obviously we learned a lot in the last year about different ways to provide, to deliver content, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of it's obviously been online. It sounds like your survey says people want to go back to in-person, but also want to have the option of continuing to do some things, maybe streaming. Maybe some people want to do streaming, some people want to come back. So are you thinking that you're going to be back in the Sunset Center anytime soon in terms of programming and then streaming that, question mark?
Well, that is exactly what we're contemplating. We already reserved April 13th for the annual event for next year. I mean, obviously barring anyone, the speaker schedules and everything, we might have to change that, but we've already established that we want to be back in person in a theater at Sunset Center. In terms of our programs that take place there at Carpenter Hall, right now they have some limited capacity, but they are offering that. So I just sent an email to the person, my contact over there, for the logistics of the venue. So it's a little bit, I guess, Tara, what I'm saying is it's in flux still a little bit, where I think the plan is to move back into gathering in person for these programs, with maybe, like you said, some options to view them online. I think that we found with the survey convenience, and also we have an older demographic too that don't necessarily like to come out too late or in the dark or in the cold when it gets to be in the winter months. So, I mean, these are all things that we're considering as options going forward. But first, we're just trying to find out what our partner in Sunset Center, what they're doing, and then also what types of programs that we'll have.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question. I was at an event at Forest Center last night. They have something there, but I guess her thing about being cold and a lot of people might not want to be there, but it would be an outdoor venue that you could maybe get more people into, a place like that. But in the winter, it's probably wouldn't be too pleasant for a lot of people.
That could be a good option for a few months.
Right. Okay. Any other comments or questions for Alex? Well, thank you very much for the report and continued support. We'll move on to Ashley. Or do you have your auditors online yet, or?
No, I don't. I'd like to send them a quick email and see where they are. But if you want to go ahead and do the minutes and keep us moving along, we can do that.
Sure.
Oh,
Okay, we're gonna
send him an email. So if we just want to skip ahead, that reminder will jog his memory.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and skip item number 2, come back to it when the auditors are online, and we'll move to number 3, which is approve the minutes from the May 26, 2021 meeting. Do anybody have any corrections, or are they good as written? Can I get a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. So
John Krisher,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Bill Pardue,
yes.
Tara Twomey, Sarah, you there? Did we lose her?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Do you approve the minute?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. And
You did lose me.
Sheldon
You did lose me momentarily, but I'm back.
Okay. Thank you. Then they are approved. And I just got a little thing. Sheldon is joining the meeting.
Okay. So we'll why don't we pause right here till we give him a chance to get online, and then we'll get the auditor's report and then move on to the librarian's report. Okay, Ashley, it looks like should be online. Do you want to confirm? And
Hi, Sheldon.
Hello, just getting my speakers to work.
Very good.
And everything seems to be working. Can you hear me okay?
You can.
All right. So I apologize for being late. I had went to the doctor this morning to do my annual lab work, and it took longer than I expected. So let me go ahead and pull up your file, and I'm not sure if...
I was going to let you take it away, Sheldon.
All right, perfect. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Give me 1 second. So it's almost the end of June 2021, just so everyone knows. Time is flying by. And we're finally outside of the pandemic, it looks like. So from an audit standpoint, the city is going to get to see my team again. So I can't wait to come down and visit. I typically do a nice little run there on the beach. And I'm missing that run. All right, so I was buying myself some time to pull up the report. Hopefully that was a sufficient amount of time to buy there. All right, so we're looking back to June 30, 2020, which, makes it relevant that I'm mentioning that we're almost at the June 30, 2021. Every year it's been a goal of mine since we've picked up the engagement with the city of Carmel to have the HML report done sooner rather than later, and try to get it done before 12/31. That was completely blown up with COVID-19. Pretty much every single local government audit report, well, I shouldn't say that, about 80% of the local governments that I audited this last year were beyond the 12/31 deadline. That 12/31 deadline was actually extended to 3/31 for many local governments. So this year, 2021, that we're currently auditing, it will be our goal to have the HML report done prior to 12/31 and try to issue at the same time that we actually issue the CAFR for the city. So looking back to, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm assuming I have the ability to do so. Let's see here. I do. Okay, so you should see the audit report, table of contents. If you don't, please speak up and let me know.
Can you make it bigger, Sheldon?
I can.
There we go.
That's better.
All right, so it's a relatively small reporting package, right? Considering that, if you look at the cities, you're going to have over 120 pages, if I remember correctly, in their comprehensive annual financial report. So for the library, it's really, and I think I mentioned this in the past, if you were on the board in the past, that this is a subset of what we report in the city. So it's a fund in the city. So in years past, when we first picked up the audit, I spent a lot of time identifying exactly how the relationship should work with the city and the library. And ultimately, based on how the library is organized and based on the documentation I was provided, I agreed with the previous presentation that it was a special revenue fund of the city. And so that's how these financial statements are presented. So with that, you'll see in the independent auditor's report, we have a paragraph in regard to the limitation related to the financials because they are a subset of the city. But essentially you get what you would typically see in a financial statement, which is a balance sheet and a statement of revenues and expenditures and changes of fund balance. Well, that's an income statement, by the way. You don't see a cash flow statement because what we present here is similar to what we would present for any other local government that is reported on what's called a modified accrual basis. It's different than accrual, it's different than cash. And in a modified accrual basis presentation for a local government, you don't present a statement of cash flow. There are notes to the basic financial statements, and then we also have the required supplementary information. The only required supplementary information presented in this package is the budget to actual, right? It's a governmental fund. Special revenue fund is considered a governmental fund. Therefore, a special revenue fund under governmental accounting standards that has an annual budget is required to have a RSI schedule comparing that budget to the actual for the year. And that's what you see on page 15. Now, in the state of California, local governments are required to have the audits performed under government auditing standards. And so it's a second set of a slightly more detailed standards than the typical generally accepted auditing standards in the United States of America. The main difference between generally accepted auditing standards and generally accepted governmental auditing standards is really the reporting requirements. So the city level, we report to the board a SAS 114 report that goes over any difficulties that we might have encountered during the audit, any consultations that we may have had with third parties, any passed on adjustments, any material audit adjustments, and in essence, significant accounting policy, significant note disclosures. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump into some of the financials. I'm gonna zoom in and out, so I'll zoom in once we get to the page I'm looking for. I'm not gonna go into too much detail. I'm just gonna kind of give you a big picture overview and then leave it open to questions. And ultimately, I guess we should start with the independent auditor's report. One thing to note is the organization of the auditor's report is going to change in the coming years. I find that, and I guess really the whole industry of auditors and auditing standards has found that the fact we report our opinions on the second page of the auditor's report doesn't really make sense, right? It really should be on the first page, right up in the front. What's our opinion on these financial statements? Instead of on the second page. So there's too much reading involved trying to figure out what our actual opinion is. And the opinion is what you're paying to get, right? And keep in mind what we're doing, what our objective is to issue a set of financial statements and then let readers know if those financial statements are materially misstated or not. So there's a reasonable assurance behind that opinion that we are issuing, not 100% assurance, but a reasonable assurance. And so that's outlined in the language of our opinion. So if you read, it's in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. The respective financial position, missing the word of there, of the Harrison Memorial Library Fund information of the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea as of June 30, 2020. And of course, the respective changes in financial position would be the income statement. So that's the important thing. The emphasis of a matter is the note that you get, the paragraph that you get when we're identifying that the library is a fund within the city. And so therefore we need to go ahead and identify that, that this report in and of itself does not represent the city as a whole. So that's required. The rest of the opinions, the rest of the letter, the independent auditor's report is required reporting information based on the RSI. The library does not include a management discussion and analysis, and it has not historically. And the management discussion and analysis can be found at the city level, and at city level, you kind of get lost. If I remember correctly, this last year, you may have been a non-major fund for the city. In the past, you've been a major fund. Either way, the library kind of gets lost in the city's comprehensive annual financial report. So when you're looking at the management discussion and analysis, that fund is consolidated into their financials. So you don't really get to see the comparative year over year when looking at the city's comprehensive annual financial report. Governmental accounting standards either says include a management discussion analysis or include this paragraph saying you did not include a management discussion analysis. So it's not a qualification, it's not a modification, it's just an explanatory paragraph. The rest of the RSI goes into the budget that I discussed. And then of course we have a paragraph on other required reporting standards, which is the government auditing standards. One thing we always do is we identify who's responsible for what. Management is responsible for the financial statements, and we are responsible to perform the audit based on the standards we've identified. And then we're also responsible for that reasonable assurance. So providing and obtaining appropriate, sufficient audit evidence for our opinion. All right, so financial statements, as we discussed. So very simple balance sheet, cash and investments, a little bit of accounts payable at year end. Every year we're disclosing the different types of fund balance. You can choose to do this in the balance sheet itself like we present here, or it could be done into the notes. And so historically, I've always presented the reserves and restrictions and commitments and the unassigned fund balance in detail on the balance sheet. It's easier for the readers, I believe. So that's what you're seeing here. It's fairly consistent with last year. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention one thing on the independent auditor's report. It is an unmodified opinion. So there are not any findings or qualifications related to the financial statements. So in essence, you pass the audit. So that's the main, I could stop there if you want. That's kind of what you're looking for, right? But here's, the history lesson is pretty old in these financials, right? And I always call it a history lesson because the audit is after the fact. You know, we're reporting information that you're already expecting, right? You've already seen at some point in time. But sometimes you'd be surprised 6 months after the close of the year, you know, I'll have a board member go, well, that number doesn't look right. And so we get into detail as to what they were expecting and why it was different. It doesn't happen very often though. So here's your income statement. So you can see the Carmel Public Library Foundation had some contributions, Friends of HML. Then you have your expenditures broken down in detail. Your ending fund balance looks pretty healthy, right? And then most of that is cash and investments. Of course, your investments, if I remember correctly, we can take a look at that disclosure now. Sit with LAIF, Local Agency Investment Fund. And there it is. So you got your cash on hand, your bank accounts, LAIF, and then some amounts that are restricted in LAIF. Now, it's a pretty straightforward audit report. There's some upcoming accounting pronouncements that may have an impact. I don't think they're going to have a significant impact on the library, but leases, it's a big deal. Governmental accounting standards are lining up with financial accounting standards for commercial entities and nonprofits in terms of how leases are going to be reported, so they'll be consistent between the different types of organizations. So essentially, we're making up an asset and a liability to smooth out the balance sheet and show the leases accounted for on a long-term basis. They're getting rid of the old terminology of a capital lease and an operating lease. So really, you just have a lease. So if you lease anything out for more than a year, you're basically going to have an asset, a liability, and then what they do is they take the expense that is, you know, the payments that you're going to make over time, and how, you know, if they escalate with CPI adjustments and whatnot, you take that 5-year period, you divide the total payments by 5, and that's going to be your lease expense every year. And then of course you record an asset and a liability to offset that. It gets a little bit more complicated than that when you get into complex leases and terms and present values and whatnot, but that's the basic idea. So I don't see that you have currently any significant leases though. So it may not be an issue for you at all. But it's something we'll look into as we move forward, because what we're finding is as we get into these new lease accounting standards, that we're finding some leases pop up that entities did not knew they had. So it's interesting how all of a sudden we find new leases that were around for 5-10 years, but nobody knew about it. They're not material, but with a new standard, we're going ahead and including those in the financials. All right, so that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions or concerns or comments, please feel free to go ahead.
Okay, I
have a
go ahead.
I have a question for
Tom.
Ashley, actually. So obviously this is public because it's in our packet. Do we post this somewhere too, or does Old City post their?
The city does not. The city has not posted the audit on the website, but we can start doing that.
Do they normally? I'm just kind of curious. I just don't know. Okay.
No, they don't normally. Mm-mm. We have all.
I don't know that we need. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, not the audits.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to, but it's obviously a public. You know, I know it's public because it's in our packet.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's something. You know, if they post the budget and the audits and the. Okay, just something. I'll think about it.
John, do you have any questions?
No, it's quite simple to me. I understand it here.
Right. Susan, do you have any questions?
No, actually I do, which is sort of strange. It'd probably be more for Ashley. Who pays for the audit?
We do.
We do.
We
okay.
do. We pay for our portion of the audit.
Okay, I didn't know whether it was a city or library.
Yes, the
okay,
library.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I don't have any questions. Sheldon, thank you very much for the presentation today. And good news on the that we're in compliance.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Sheldon.
All right, guys, have a good day.
You too. All right. So now we're on to item 4, the librarian's report for May 2021.
So for the librarian's report, I don't really have anything of note. We dipped a little in our circulation stats, but we did go up in that dip with the use for electronic checkouts, and our holds request did increase. But nothing beyond that. keeping an eye on our search statistics and library usage. I'm excited and looking forward to seeing if there's any changes in circulation with the new outside library. We are seeing more people come and browse, which is great, and people are still picking up their holds. So, and again, just working towards getting the library buildings open again, so people can be here.
So you are getting pretty good foot traffic through the outdoor library?
We are getting pretty good foot traffic. So we were closed the week of Memorial Day to get that all set up. And outside library and summer reading began June the 7th. And we are getting good foot traffic. I already checked the stats after that first week, the first 2 weeks. So the week of the 7th and last week. And even being missing 4 or 5 days with while we did setup, we're still closing in. We were over half of what we would have done at that same time. So we are already seeing an increase when I run the numbers, and we're seeing an increase in the other report I was looking at was we were trying to figure out if there was a way we could do a door count type of situation with the outside library. So I did run a report to take a look at unique users. What unique users does is it's the person that checked it out. If you're looking for door count, which is number of, it's a little bit different. Door count is number of bodies that pass through the door. So a husband and wife came up with their kids, you'll only see one unique user rather than, the whole family checked out books together. So it's not perfect, but I am taking a look at all the different ways we can see how effective outside library is.
Right. I think, I've been out there and it's pretty inviting the way you have it set up. And I'm not sure it's realistic that you can get a accurate door count because it's open air. People can kind of come and go and flow in and out.
Exactly.
So, the best you may be able to do is the librarians are manning out there saying, yep, it was standing room only, or it was crickets. And that may be about the best you can do. And then you'll have your, of course, circulation numbers for checkouts.
Yeah, it's just like being inside in the library where people come in waves. There'll be a lull and no one will be there, and then all of a sudden you'll get 10 people all at once, and depending on the time of the day. So it is great. It's great. Again, like I said, it's nice to see people in the building or in outside library, and with that ultimate goal of getting the buildings open again.
Right. Okay. Are you concerned about folks walking in and then walking out without checking out? Or is that not an issue? Do you have?
We do have people who walk by, but usually they're like, "Oh, I didn't know this was here.
Okay.
I didn't bring my library card. I don't have my ID or my wallet or anything like that." So they usually say they'll be back. And some people who are passing through are tourists who just can't pass a book by without taking it in. So.
And I get a ton of questions about when the library is going to be open, and the open library at the market all the time.
Okay.
From people, both tourists and locals. So.
At there was a time where at the main library, there'd be as you went out the door, there was a stack of books that were for sale, that if people wanted them. Is that already set up at the outdoor branch, or is there a thought to do that? I'm thinking, if it's there and the tourists see it and they walk by, they may want to get a book while they're just occupy their off time while they're in Monterey or Carmel. But anyway, is that a thought, or are you already doing it?
We did think about that because we do have our Friends of the Library book cart over at the main.
Right.
Exactly what you're talking about. We have been directing people to the little free library on the side of the building. Part of that is because we stock it with our discard books as well as donation books from the Friends. And so to avoid any confusion there with the cart right there, that's what we've been having people do. So either way, they can get their hands on books.
And people often wait in line when we're stocking the little library to grab a free book. So it's, people are reading. There was this time when we thought that, everything was going to be electronic, and people want that book in their hands, which is kind of good.
Yeah.
Good.
We're hearing good feedback from our patrons who are coming in to pick up their books and checking them out about the Zip Books program, because I'm out there at the outside library for a number of hours in the week, and Zip Books tided people over, especially during those times where we weren't even doing curbside. So that was gratifying to hear that was an effective way to keep people engaged with the library and get actual physical books in people's hands.
Okay, excellent. All right, so John, do you have any questions, comments?
Well, my comment is I'm getting bombarded by people asking when the library is going to open. People tell me they're tired of looking online. They want to go into the library. They want to look down the bookshelves and see what there is, and they can get as soon as they get open, because I'm hearing from a lot of people about that.
That is our number one question over the phone and in person right now, is when we are opening. And it's just a challenge with both of the buildings. So it's, I like I said, I put my job requisition forms in as soon as that budget was adopted. And I will be working and nagging HR continually so that we can get people back.
I have one other question. Are we still getting the magazines to put them out for people to maybe purchase them for maybe $1 or something like that, like the different we get?
Our discard magazines, we
Yeah.
haven't been putting those out, but we can.
I mean, I'm interested because my wife asked me about that. She's always interested in it. She used to go down there and sit and read them all the time.
Yes. Yeah, that's something as we've gone through, we keep adding things into the outside library as we get requests for them. So that's a good one. Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you.
Susan, any comments, questions?
Mm-mm.
Okay, Tara?
Nope.
That was a note? Okay. All right, we'll move on to the treasurer's report for May 2021. And since Don's not here, are you going to cover that, Ashley?
I will cover that. So since Dawn is not here, you will see in your packet, we have the balance sheet. Nothing, no funny business there. We did receive that disbursement from CPLF, so that will be reflected in the next month. So for June, that's being deposited. That's actually already been deposited. Dawn made some notes. You know, we are on budget. There is a line item, the cost of goods sold, that popped up in our report. You can just ignore that. There was a check that was miscoded to that, and the bookkeeper has fixed it. So that's why that suddenly appeared. Dawn made note of that with question marks. The audit was not included as of this report, but now it has been. We do have that invoice and that will be paid. We did spend more funds in the month of June or in May preparing for it, and that'll be reflected in the June statements, where Dawn made note marketing not spent in marketing our outside library, but also gearing up for summer reading. So that will be reflected there. And then he did make note of our COVID related spending, and that those are lines 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and goodness, most of the rest of them. He made note of our rejuvenating the kids collection, which is why we're over budget there. That continues and we're making good progress. And I think that is it. And then of course the check register is attached. And I don't know if anybody has any questions about anything on the check register. There's nothing, no companies or anything of note to make there. We haven't done any different type of spending than we would have.
So I'm just looking at the $19,000 change. What was that again? I know you covered it, but I didn't quite catch what that was or the implication.
The $19,000 change, that is where we are, does he have this? That's our, what did he do here? It looks almost backwards to me, where it should be the spending for April is up. May and April look like they should be reversed.
Right, we just have the May 31st sheet in front of us, and it's got the very first line as a negative 19,000.
I am not sure. I believe it's because of where we are with the CPLF disbursements that it's reflecting like this. I'm not sure.
All right, well, we can check it before we go on.
We will.
I mean, well, obviously not. Don's not here.
Don's not here, but no, we will. Yeah, I'll ask him about what. I'm not sure why our balance sheet is showing like that. Like I said, it looks backwards to me in terms of our spending and in terms of balances.
Right.
And
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, while we're on the treasurer's report, just so everyone knows, Don has submitted his resignation and the city has accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I got from Don. And will he continue doing the treasurer's report through the October, or do we need to, at the next meeting, figure out who's going to do the treasurer's report?
He will continue doing the treasurer's report through the end of September.
Okay.
So the city will be doing recruitments for all board. That times out with the cycle, and the city will be undertaking new positions. But if anybody wants to volunteer in advance, Don is going to provide Leslie and I with some training on how he has been preparing the treasurer's reports, and I'm sure he would be happy to work with any of you who would like to take on that responsibility.
Okay. So at this point, I have a question on the 19,000. Actually, what that exactly entails. So I'm inclined to recommend suggest that we roll this treasurer's report to the next meeting when Don's here.
You can do that. Yes.
Sarah, I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll go through and look at, that is higher spending than we normally do, but I am cataloging and the rejuvenation of the youth services collection, the spending there was pretty heavy. And so I will go through and detail out what all of that was.
Okay. I'm sure it's all fine. I think we just have a responsibility to understand
Yes, exactly.
why it's fine. Okay. So we'll push item number 5 to the next trustees meeting, and we'll move on to item number 6, which is review and adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. So Ashley, over to you.
So at our last meeting, we went through the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. The board directed staff to come back with further information on plans for computer replacements, in particular for staff computers. And so staff has done that. I have talked with IT about their replacement cycle that our IT is on, and the in particular laptops and docking stations versus desktop CPUs. So where we landed was I would like to push us in a direction to use laptops and CPUs. One of the advantages of this is, if there's ever something in the future where we do have to be in a place where we work at home again, we have that ability to do so. The other benefit of it that we've been finding as staff is that essentially any room becomes a computer lab now, and it is a breeze for staff training where it used to be more of a challenge. Our IT is going to be working on implementing Amazon Workspace. We've kind of been beta testing it through the pandemic. Some people in the city have used it more than others. I use it on occasion when I've been working remotely to process payroll from home, but we are heavy G Suite users. So it'll be working with our IT on that. And we had planned prior to the start of the pandemic to do some testing with the public computers on thin clients. So I did adjust the budget to reflect this by moving some of the funds around within that line item. So we should be good to support some new laptops for current staff, as well as I'm looking at full-time staff coming back on board this year, making sure that they have access to those. So I appreciate that our IT is trying to be flexible. One of their big things is trying to make sure, for sanity's sake, that they are able to make sure that we are operating safely, that there's no way that hackers can get in at us. And the best way to do that is to make sure that the city all of the city departments are working the same, so that IT, who is just there, it's 2 people for the entire city. So over 80 computers, more than that, more workstations than that to monitor. So I want to make sure that we're working with them as best we can. So that's
So the one question I have on the buying the laptops, if you buy them all at once, that means they go out of warranty all at once, and you need to replace them all at once. Is that the plan, or are they looking at trying to phase them in? So there's a rolling replacement. So
It's
there's
gonna
no
be a
big
rolling
budget.
Yeah, there'll be rolling replacements. So for instance, we did purchase some during last fiscal year, so 2019, 2020. At the start of the pandemic, we purchased additional laptops to meet that need, and then we'll have additional purchases this year. And I imagine we'll continue on that cycle where we have those replacements happening, not everybody all at once. And it used to be structured that we alternated between staff computer replacements and public computer replacements by building. So everything, it wasn't a wholesale, everybody all at once.
Okay, John, any questions?
I like the plan. I like the plan she came up with on a 4-year cycle and the new laptops for the employees. I think the plan she came up with is quite good. I like the idea.
All right. Susan.
Nothing.
Okay. Tara.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, so now can I get a motion to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget?
This is Tara, so moved.
Second it.
Okay. We have a vote, please.
Sean Krischer,
Yes.
Susan Murphy,
Yes.
Bill Pardue,
Yes.
Tara Twami.
Yes.
Approved. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any future agenda items?
I do have lots of future agenda items. So of course, end of year reconciliation. We'll bring back the treasurer's report and approve the check register for May 2021. And hopefully I would like to get back to the meeting room policy that we started and never finished before the pandemic, because we are going to be reopening at some point in the next couple months. And I want us to be prepared with that so that we're ready to throw the doors of our new gathering space open to everybody. And then of course, I've got another to-do list and I'd like to start subbing some things in. That being said, I would request, if the board is amenable, to cancel the July meeting. I'd like to take some vacation and that will fall during that time.
So what you really need us to do is to make a decision on the July meeting today.
If possible, yes. Or I can, yes, I didn't agendize it.
No, that's fine. No, I just, so the only thing we'd be missing would be the May financials, the end of year reconciliation, and is there any other potentially urgent business outstanding?
There isn't any other potentially urgent business outstanding. It would be those 2 items that would be, the board would hear in August.
Okay. John, do you have any problem
No.
skipping the July?
No, she has to have her vacation. I understand that.
Yeah, I get that.
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Right. Susan?
No, she deserves a vacation, definitely.
Absolutely. And then Tara? Tara, are you on mute? Well, anyway, I agree. We have
Thank you.
3, so we're good. No, I just wanted to make sure that, if we make the decision today, then you don't have to worry about it. Okay.
All right, so I will come back with end of year check register and our policy at the August meeting.
Right. And we'll put in the minutes for this meeting that will be posted that we will not be having the July meeting, all the proper notices, so the
Yep, we will have those. Yeah, the meeting cancellation notices will go up.
Okay, excellent. All right. Anybody have anything else? Okay. Well, thank you very much. We are adjourned. Everybody have a great 2 months.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Get your